Welcome to the show. I am Jacob, and I'm a sports guy.
And I'm Tim, and I am not a sports guy.
That is right. Welcome to episode 2 of the Not a Sports Guy podcast, a show where we log Tim's journey of becoming a sports fan. As you already know, if you listen to episode 1, if you haven't listened to episode 1, you should probably turn back around and go listen to that one because you missed a whole bunch of fun things, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Well, we're also tracking along in real time. So this season, if you didn't listen to episode 1 and you don't want to go back to listen to episode 1, we're tracking in real time the 2021-2022 NBA season.
That is correct.
So we'll be talking about current events thereof. So
maybe you don't want to go back.
Yeah. If you want to learn what little I know about the NBA, then go back and listen. But otherwise,
that is a very good point.
Yeah. Jacob he spent all of last episode just trying his best to call me out for what I don't know, embarrass me.
And that was the fun part about it, because
the whole point.
You called the Celtics you want to finish it? The Celtics.
You know, the Celtics were just a heavy point of contention for me because I also thought LeBron played for them, and they.
That's right. That is right. So not only did you think LeBron played for the Celtics, you thought they were called the Celtics. So that basically, in its own right, catches everyone up to where they should be. But you're right. We're taking the season week by week in live time. So you know what that means, Tim? Yesterday was Thanksgiving.
It was.
So how was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I'm glad. I had completely forgotten. I wanted to mention that on the podcast. My Thanksgiving was good. It was busy, a lot of driving. Well, it wasn't too much driving, but it was all right.
It's always a part of every Thanksgiving. You got to go a few different places. You got to drive from here to there. So
yeah, that was a nice thing about being a kid, man. Like you just kind of got taken wherever, but then you become an adult and you get married, and
next thing you know, you're the driver. You're the one going everywhere.
Yep.
Well, I'm not sure if
Well, I was just going to say my Thanksgiving was better than yours. I was going to segue you in there, but go ahead.
We had the same thought process. You wanted to segue, I was segueing, but you're right. You did have a better Thanksgiving than I did, because I don't know if anyone can tell, but I'm sick. Got a little cold here, and the nose is stuffy. I've got the cough and everything, so I'm going to do my best to edit out all the coughs. So hopefully I can make that happen.
That's the problem. You said you put stuffing in your nose.
Okay, well, it's
supposed to go in your mouth. I know it's one of everybody's favorite sides.
I guess that's where I went wrong. Because clearly I ended up on the wrong side of Thanksgiving. It just, I will say this. It was a chill Thanksgiving. I still got to go on a car ride. I got to travel to my parents' house and got some food from my mom's side, my dad's side. So, at the end of the day, still got some good Thanksgiving food.
I feel like you actually got out in like the best position because you didn't have
Some people might think that. Some people might think, hey, you didn't have to sit through all of like the family dinners and everything. Drama. Yeah. You're right.
You
just go straight to the food.
Man.
You're exactly right. That's hilarious. Well, again, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, we just covered some basic NBA knowledge. We covered last season's award winners, as well as some of the storylines heading into this NBA season. And we also rolled the wheel of NBA teams.
You spin a wheel. You don't roll it. Well, I mean, you do roll wheels, but this wheel did not get rolled.
So wheels don't roll now. Since when did wheels not roll? Anyways, we did. You're right. We did spin a wheel. We spun the wheel of NBA teams to see which team we would follow for this season, and lo and behold, us two lucky guys here got the Brooklyn Nets, and so we've spent this whole last week following the Nets, keeping up with them, and we will be sharing our thoughts later on. But
it's funny that we ended up with the Nets because leading up to like getting in prep for the first episode and just like kind of figuring out what this podcast was going to be, we had talked about how we were going to kind of randomize the team that we ended up with. And we both had said that we didn't want to get stuck with like one of the better teams.
Exactly.
And then because we were afraid it'd look like we're kind of bandwagon fans.
Right. But lo and behold, we really spun the Nets. And that was another funny thing. We're like, we don't want a top team. We don't want the Lakers. We don't want the Nets. We don't want the Warriors. And we got the Nets. But that might be changing mid-season.
Whoa.
That might be changing because, Tim, I'll let you speak for yourself later on. But
hot take. I had that one ready to go.
I cannot. So you've got a soundboard pulled up now. All right. Well, Tim's got a soundboard. I don't know who gave that to him. But yeah, Tim might be switching sides, and we're only a week in. But
I'm not committing to switching sides. Okay, well, and again, I feel like we're just going to spend all episode 2 recapping episode 1. Wanted to state this. So you and I were both Georgia born and raised.
Correct.
You aren't exclusively a Nets fan. You are really you pride yourselves on being a Hawks fan.
Correct.
But you're just kind of doing this alongside me here. Even though I've been, living in Georgia all my life, just because I didn't really follow any sports teams, and I really couldn't claim loyalty to the Hawks. I just thought this would be kind of a fun way to take a fresh start. And so that's why we ended up doing that anyways. But so far I'm not really loving following the Nets, and I'm going to give it a little bit of time. I'm not going to say right off the bat that I just don't want to be a Nets fan, but I don't know. And I think a lot of it's going to it's going to take some learning on my end.
For sure.
So, I was talking about, actually I work with a Nets fan actually. So, which is nice because we've been talking about some of their gameplay and specifically with last Monday, I think they played the Cavs. And I felt like even though they won the game, they played really lazily and slower paced, which that kind of bothered me, especially with the Cavs. And I don't remember their guy.
So they've got Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen. That was like their two.
Right. But Garland, the hustle that he brought, I found that to be more entertaining. And I know that he was kind of playing to keep up with the Nets, and it just kind of felt like they didn't care. And I guess that my coworker, what he was saying was that you have to think that, well, the Nets are an older team,
right?
A little bit more wise, and they know that they've got to conserve their energy now as opposed to when we get to the playoffs or closer to the end of the season. And that's just kind of a weird adjustment because, well, I mean, I played basketball, and it just, when I was playing, my coach didn't let us, kind of conserve energy, as it were, throughout the season.
Of course not. It's always you got to put in 110%.
Yeah, so it's very strange, but also I didn't play 80 plus games a season. That's also true. We played maybe 20, 25. So I mean, that's, I think that's just going to take some getting used to. But then I've watched a lot of highlights and a few other games, and I just feel like there are a lot of teams with a lot more energy that just happen to be more entertaining to watch because of that. So I just don't know. I'm going to give it a little bit of time. I don't want to just turn my back on the Nets like I did the Hawks. Right. But I'm actually enjoying watching. I'm trying to keep up with the Hawks as well. So
right. Well, cool. We're going to dive deeper into that as well at the end of the podcast, because since we did roll the Nets and that is the team we're following, we are going to do weekly updates on them. We're going to try to save them to the end of the show, just because I don't want everyone to think that this is solely a Nets show, because it's not. This is very much a sports podcast, and this season we just happen to be covering the NBA. So today's show, we're going to obviously do a little segment at the beginning. Then we're going to jump into this week in basketball, which will kind of talk about some of the highlights over this past week. And then obviously, like I just said, we'll end it with the Nets update.
What are we going to talk about? Nothing crazy happened this week.
For basketball?
Yeah, nothing at all.
You crazy, because number one was the LeBron James and Isaiah Stewart battle. Not. But that was obviously something pretty big, but we're going to jump into that too. So let's first just start the show off with a little bit of NBA 101. So you put together some questions that you had for me this week regarding the NBA. So the first question that you had prepared for me was, how many games are in the NBA regular season? And again, don't want to harp on last episode too much, but last episode I did make a mistake. I said 80 games.
Oh my
I've always known it to be 82. I don't know where I heard 80 and just stuck with that. But in the regular season, there are 82 games. So, football has around 17 in the regular season. Baseball has 162. NBA, obviously 82. I feel like still it's just an incredible amount of games to try to shove into one season because, this past week, the Nets played 3 games. So that's 3 games in 7 days. And there's usually more than that. So I would even say they could throw in a 4th or 5th game potentially in there during a week. So they're really pushing these athletes to their limits. That's actually been a pretty big topic lately is time management. A lot of players these days, especially the older players like LeBron, even Kevin Durant, these players have been sitting on the bench some games just to rest, solely for rest. They're not injured or anything. And some of the older players that are already retired, even Hall of Famers, are coming out to say that, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, we never did that. We pushed through it. Kind of like, we're the manly man. Like, we're playing all season. We're not taking any little breaks or, I'm going to take this game off because I'm kind of tired and just want to kind of, rehab my body this week. No, that's not how they like it. But these newer guys are obviously being pushed to their limits more. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Having 82 games and some of these guys that are wanting to take breaks are kind of getting bullied around saying that they're weak for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see both sides to it. You just got to go back to my, initial concerns with tracking with the Nets. It's a game about pace and,
Right.
energy. And like 82 games is a lot to play. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that like if I had played 82 games, I would be able to like go 100%. But then you do have these older players who did, and I get that too. But I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's about winning games, and that kind of falls to the coaches, I guess. And like, if the coach thinks that they can win a game with some of their better players sitting and resting this game, I mean, so be it. That's their choice. I don't know that they should be criticized for that necessarily. Like, if that team can make it to the championship because some of their players rested earlier in the season or whatever, like, so be it. That's their team, and that's the decision to make. And if they fail because of that, that's also on them. I don't know. It's interesting that they're kind of getting pointed out for it, but
yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, if this team is going to be a championship team that's going to make the run, that's going to get into the playoffs, like, why is it a big deal that someone rests for a few games during the beginning of the season when we know after Christmas everyone's going to start turning on the Jets and trying to make it to the playoffs? But obviously, starting hot is worth it. It'll get you ahead. And speaking of starting hot,
right past that. Okay,
the Suns. I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
You said something about the Jets. I thought that was a football team, and then I made that joke, and then you just kept going.
Yeah, so I shouldn't have even stopped. I shouldn't have even stopped. I should have just continued going.
Yeah, let's talk about the Suns.
Yeah, the Suns.
You had actually a really good segue. Hold on,
great segue,
and then I just ruined it. I'm sorry. You said, "Well, can you think you can rehash it?"
I mean, I was basically just saying that sometimes it's good to start hot at the beginning of the season.
That's it.
Instead of turning on the Jets at the end of the season. But I was saying that the Suns have made a great start to their season. They've won 15 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're definitely ahead of the game, and I don't know when they're going to stop.
So have you had a chance to watch any of their games or just kind of highlights?
That's the tough thing about it. I've seen some of their highlights on social media, but I haven't really been able to watch any of their games. I mean, they're a West Coast team. We're over here in the East Coast, so we're not really getting much of their games unless it's on ESPN or something like that, or NBA TV. So I haven't really got to see much about them. I know that last year they made it to the finals against the Bucks, and I think they were even up 3 games, maybe I think 2 games actually, I'm not sure, but everyone thought they were going to win it, So and a lot of people thought that they weren't going to be able to come into this season and reciprocate how good they did last year. So
right.
I don't know. They're starting off hot. So
well, not to make the conversation centered around like this pacing conversation, but the reason why I ask is I haven't been watching them specifically, so I don't really know. Like I heard some commentary stating that not to put them lower than they should be, because I mean 15 games is 15 games.
right.
But I've heard some people say, well, their schedule has kind of put them against some of the lesser teams, which is, is fair, but it's part of it, But I'm curious if, like, is it also that they've just got the energy that, I see that the Nets don't have, I'm just
Right.
curious if that was kind of a part of it too. But, which is interesting too, because like one way or the other, there's you can't discount the fact that winning 15 games in a row is going to give you some sort of energy or, kind of like not ego, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Like a
No, I
morale
mean, I
boost.
think you're right. The schedule strength definitely plays into it. I mean, let's look at their last 15 game win streak. They've played against the Rockets twice, which the Rockets are the worst in the league. They've played against the Pelicans. They're the worst in the league. But they also played against the Hawks. Got a W there. They beat the Mavericks twice. They beat the Nuggets. They beat the Cavs twice. The Cavs weren't suspected to, be a team that's competing this year because they're very much still in a rebuild, but they're out there competing. They're shocking the fans with how well they're doing. And they've competed against the Suns, and
But even then, I mean, those are all still kind of like, according to the standings, like they're all kind of middle
teams.
Yeah, not to say weak. I mean, the Rockets, like you said, are pretty weak, but they're all kind of like close to that 500 range.
Right.
So I think tomorrow night. Well, and we're recording this on the 26th, by the way.
Right.
On Friday night. So tomorrow night will be exciting to kind of see how.
Oh man, I'm excited.
Really, yeah, that'll be good, and
because
we get to watch that.
I
one
think
too,
the Nets will be probably the hardest team they've faced in this 15 game win streak. So I'm excited to see if that'll be a good game to watch. And it's on NBA TV, so we might be able to catch that one. Next question you had for me was, how do the playoffs work? For example, how many games are there? How many teams are there? And anything else you needed to know about the playoffs. So another great question. Each round of the playoffs, it is a best of 7. So in the playoffs, we have 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 16 teams, 8 on each side, that make it to the playoffs. And in the first round, those games are best of 7. Next round is best of 7. Next round is best of 7, and then you have your champion.
But in those games, this may be a stupid question, and I think I know the answer, but those are in addition to the 82.
Correct. Those are in addition to the 82 already. So first to 4 wins each round. So if you've made it away, that's, what is that? 82 plus 4, 8, 12. So that's, 94 games total. That's if you win in 4 every round. Most likely the other team's going to take a few games. So you're coming out close to 100 games, if not more, in a season if you make it to the championship.
Right.
So
I guess to kind of build off of that, another question I have is, well, I guess the next question on my list was the difference between division and conference and all that stuff. And so maybe you'll kind of get into it there. But, I know out of all these 82 games, some of them don't really count, at least right now. Like, so can you walk me through that? Like, how do you know, is it only the games within the divisions that count to get to the playoffs, or, does that make sense?
So it's based off your record, just your win-loss record. And again, this isn't something that, when it comes down to it, like, do they base it off divisions? Like, you're definitely going to have divisional winners. So you have your Eastern Conference and your Western Conference. That kind of separates both sides of the playoff picture. And then you have, from there, the top 8 teams throughout all of it, throughout the East and the West.
Which means when we get to the playoffs, there will be 8 from the West and 8 from the East.
Correct.
Okay. Keep going.
And from there, like I said, I'm very much still a new NBA fan, so I'm not totally sure how it works when it comes to if you win your division, because I would assume if you have the top 4 team or the top 8 teams, they're not going to base it just off of the winners of each division. They're also going to have to throw in some teams that are second in the division, potentially even third in their division.
So what are the divisions? I mean, like, what's the point of them, I guess?
So basically, each division on each conference has, I want to say, 4 teams in it. It's 5 teams. Excuse me. Each division has 5 teams in it. And most throughout the season, you are going to play those people in your division probably more so than other people in the league. And again, I may be wrong on that, but that's how I've always seen it. Maybe wrong about that. But like I said, then you go into having your division leaders and your division winners, and then it splits off into your actual top 8 teams in the playoffs each side. So again, I may be wrong on some of that. Don't quote me on all of it. I keep reiterating. Still very new to this. So yeah, that's basically how the difference between conference and division. So there's smaller divisions within the conference. So yeah, that's basically going to wrap up our new segment that we just started today, which is NBA 101. Hopefully, we can continue this throughout the podcast season, and Tim will just keep hitting us with these questions. Now, see, that wasn't a hot take.
No, it wasn't. I just wanted to do that again.
You wanted to do that to send us into our break, right?
Yeah, you want me to do it again?
Yeah, let's do it one more time.
No, it's okay. That's okay.
Okay. Well, see, that's I don't have access to this soundboard, so I can't do the. Here, how about this? I'll do it myself.
Ooh, no.
No?
Definitely not.
Well, let's go into a break real quick, and on the other side, we'll have This Week in Basketball. Welcome back, everybody, to the Not a Sports Guy podcast. We're about to jump into This Week in Basketball, where we cover some of the top storylines. Yeah, because I'm pissed. I'm actually pissed. That's not excitement. I'm pissed off.
Yikes.
I'm joking. Right. I'm not mad.
Why?
I'm not mad. I'm just joking.
All right.
Well, clearly someone's pissed off, because the first thing we're talking about today is the LeBron James up against Isaiah Stewart. I like presenting it like it's a boxing match or something.
Dude, it felt like that, man.
It felt like it for a split second whenever LeBron turned around. Other than that, it was just a bunch of freaking bullcrap.
Well, no, what it really felt like, and I've told you this, I think when it happened, I texted you about this. I felt like it literally it came straight out of the WWE. Like the way Isaiah Stewart kept running back, I was just waiting for him to come back with a fold-up chair.
Steel chair.
Like, I was like, what has happened? This guy is crazy. Yeah, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, so the Lakers were playing the Pistons this past week, and I think the Pistons were actually beating them. And I think LeBron James just kind of got fed up with Isaiah Stewart. They were both at the foul line. I'm sure everyone's seen it. Isaiah Stewart kind of leans his weight into him, almost pushing LeBron over. And LeBron, I feel like, kind of just lost his balance a little bit. And once he started to get beat off the line, he just got pissed. He was like, that's it. And when he claims that he tried to do a swim move over Isaiah Stewart, I don't know if I necessarily see him try to do a swim move, but he definitely tries to turn quickly. And when he does, he's got a closed hand, like a fist, and pops him right in the face. I mean, okay, first and foremost, obviously Isaiah Stewart goes away. He gets, his eye is now bloody. It's cut open, and it's just a big shoving match. He kind of goes up to LeBron. LeBron claims that he was trying to apologize. They kind of get separated by the players and coaches and refs, and then Isaiah Stewart just continues to try to come back and like bulldozing over coaches and players, trying to get at LeBron. Clearly never makes it to him. gets separated, goes back into the locker room, and that's all we see. Since then, suspensions have been handed out. LeBron got a 1-game suspension. Stewart got a 2-game suspension. And, that's it. I mean, let's start here. LeBron claims it was unintentional. What do you believe that?
Well, I feel like I watched it a few times, and LeBron was playing far more aggressively than he needed to be. Now, you made a comment that Isaiah Stewart was kind of throwing his weight into him, which even more kind of amplifies, like, I can see why LeBron did what he did. I didn't really catch that as much, but I didn't see a lot like leading into it. I just kind of saw the initial point of contact.
Right.
But I do feel like LeBron, like, based on that alone, he's definitely playing more aggressively than he needs to be. Like, I played basketball, and like, I know, and he's on the line. He's essentially trying to box out, and like,
you're 100% right.
Like, he definitely, he took it too far. It does not look like he intentionally tried to, swat Isaiah in the face by any means. But I think if he had played more rational and like clean ball, that wouldn't have never happened. So I do think, like, point blank, it was initially his fault. I just don't know that the intent was there.
Yeah, I mean, you're
and
totally right.
I will state this too, that I historically, hopefully you can say that you think, I'm trying to think of how to say this. I'm not a huge LeBron fan. I never have been.
Oh, wow.
But I'm trying to look at this from a very black and white. I'm not trying to like be biased or anything like that. And I don't really, like, I would love to throw LeBron under the bus, but I just don't think I can in this situation.
I want to jump into that after I tell my kind of side of what I feel like happened. But I want to jump into why you're not a LeBron fan. I mean, it's obviously that's a lot of people. I feel like you either love them or hate them. So anyways, I think that you're right. Isaiah Stewart was trying to box him out. He was getting the best of LeBron. I even think Isaiah Stewart was maybe even being a little bit too aggressive. But I mean, he was doing his job, though. He boxed out LeBron. LeBron got pissed off that he was getting his ass whooped, and LeBron turned and swung. Whether he meant to connect or not, I don't think he meant to
that's
connect.
An interesting word you use, swung, because I don't feel like he swung. I feel like maybe he was more or less swinging his bows, or maybe going for the swim move. I can even see that, but it definitely didn't look like he was trying to swing the fist out. Like, that just kind of happened. That's
with a swim move, your hand isn't going straight. Your hand is going up and over. His hand never went up and over. His hand just went straight across and hit the face. So I don't know. Personally, I can't say he intended to hit him, but if he was trying to do a swim move, he definitely failed at doing that. But you can see right after he hits him in the face, he tries to walk up and apologize. That's clear to see.
It is clear. And I think that goes to show, again, whether or not he was trying to swing, or he definitely didn't mean to put Isaiah Stewart on the ground. Because I think as soon as he realized that there was like serious injury,
right,
or, cause for concern, he did walk right over, trying to help him off the ground.
And so I think as soon as it happened, it's one of those things where it's like it happens in the heat of the moment. You're emotional, you've got your adrenaline running. As soon as you make contact, like, immediately you're like, I did the wrong thing. I messed up. And like, you just realize it in that moment. And he tried to apologize. Isaiah Stewart just was not taking it. And even through interviews, LeBron's tried to come out and say, I've tried to get his number after the game. I tried to get in contact with him multiple times. He, doesn't want to talk to me. Isaiah Stewart came out, I think today, if not yesterday, and was like, again, this is the last time I'm talking about it. I've watched the replay over and over. It didn't seem unintentional. Like, he thinks he intended to hit him. Whether he did or not, though, I mean, I love watching stuff like this. Like, at the end of the day, I will say this. Isaiah Stewart bulldozing through people, that just seemed really immature to me. I mean, I know your emotions are flying, like the adrenaline's running, but
here's what's interesting to me is, LeBron walks over to apologize or whatever, help him up. Isaiah gets in his face, and they just kind of have this staring contest.
Right.
But like, bro, if you were mad enough to hit LeBron, you would have done it right there. Why does it take, 15 people holding you back for then you get to this point where it doesn't, nobody's going to stop you. You're going after. That's what's crazy to me. And I don't know if it's because it was LeBron or if it was just all the attention. Or was it like he didn't see the blood at first? Those are all kind of things that I've heard circling around. And I can see, I don't know. I mean, it's just not my personality. Like if I was bleeding, the last thing I'm going to do is try to attack somebody in the middle of a, fan-filled stadium.
Well,
I don't know. But
here's the thing to me. You're exactly right. He had his chance to swing at LeBron. Why is it now after you've got all these people holding you back? Are you then trying? And that's what I was saying. Like, I know I said it was immature for him to bulldoze through people, which I do think it is. Would I have felt the same way if he would have just swung at LeBron right then and there? Probably not, because I'd have been like, listen, he got hit. He's getting his back. There we go.
But here's something we also have to consider. That it looked bad, right? Isaiah's whole face
blood. It was like a horror movie.
Was right. But he got hit in the eye, and that is a super easy spot to draw blood.
And it's going to pour.
Maybe it just in the heat of the moment, Isaiah just sees blood, has no idea the extent of it, and it's just kind of a rage thing. But he didn't hit him that hard. I mean, at the end of the day,
it didn't look that hard. No. I was surprised at the amount of blood that was coming out. And like you said, it's an easy part of the body for it to just kind of pour out. So, at the end of the day, they both served a suspension. Whether you agree with LeBron getting a lesser, there's one game compared to Isaiah Stewart's 2. I think Isaiah Stewart got his second game when he pushed through all the people. I mean, it just at that point, it was like, listen, man, you're not going to get to him. You had your moment to get at him at the beginning. You chose not to.
You think it was the second time he was trying to get LeBron or the third or the fourth?
Literally, he kept I think it's when he grabbed the steel chair and brought it from the back.
Tell me that you didn't think when when they finally got him to the gate of the locker room, he took off again. I literally was waiting for him to come out the other end. I was just waiting for it. That was literally the first time. I was like, dude, he's going to come out the other side.
That's what because they say that, even though the teams go through 2 different tunnels, that you can meet back in the middle. So a lot of people saying he was running out that tunnel to run across to get to LeBron.
Right.
Who knows? But one thing's for sure, everyone protected LeBron. Nobody was letting LeBron get hit or anything like that, which, I don't think LeBron needed that, I think he tried to approach him. It's not like he backed up or anything, but you saw LeBron's teammates had his back, and you saw Isaiah Stewart was kind of mad at his teammates for holding him back. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. They've served their suspensions. They're back on the court.
I mean, they were all smart to. If the Pistons joined in and just started,
it would have been another malice at the palace. Have you seen that? Have you heard of it?
I've heard that phrase being tossed around. I don't know really what that is.
So, well, there's a great documentary on Netflix about it. It's when the Pistons fought the Pacers in Detroit. The Pacers literally jumped into the crowd, started fighting fans. It was very bad.
The Pacers did that? Okay.
Yes, in Detroit. So they were saying, because, the Lakers went to Detroit, and they were thinking that was going to be another malice at the palace type thing.
Okay.
But it wasn't. It got close to it, though.
I've been watching, what's that documentary about Michael Jordan, The Last Dance?
Right.
And part of it kind of talks about the history of the Pistons and how
very aggressive.
They've just always been aggressive. Yeah, I thought it was because I had literally just watched that episode on the documentary the day that that whole thing happened.
Oh wow, that's pretty good timing.
Yeah,
but guess who plays the Pistons Sunday?
Is it the Nets?
The Lakers. Not the Nets. They
play
wow, again. So
are they in LA this time?
They're in LA this time, but I'm very curious to see if Isaiah
and they'll both be back. Yeah.
Oh man, this will be exciting. We'll have to give you guys an update. Most likely, nothing will happen though. Next,
hopefully they address it. I'm sorry. Yeah, we need to move on.
No, but I hope they address it too. I'm right there with you. How does it go unaddressed? I don't know. Like Isaiah Stewart clearly has some things he wants to say
they
to
just
LeBron.
need to come out and bro hug, and then
that ain't happening. That ain't happening. I wonder if they'll try to like put LeBron on the court, and then whenever they try to put Isaiah Stewart in, LeBron comes out or something. There's no way they would do that. This is a big event. Anyways, next up we have KD passing Allen Iverson to be placed at 25th on the NBA's all-time scoring list. That's a pretty big accomplishment for KD. He has now 24,388 points. Allen Iverson has 24,368. So KD passes him, and I think he's almost around 100 plus away from beating the next guy out. So it's pretty exciting that, not only did we roll the Nets and we're following the Nets, but KD had this huge accomplishment while we're following them. So I have a few stats here because I thought this was pretty interesting to look at. Allen Iverson played 914 games, and KD has played 902 and already passed him up.
Okay.
He's played.
What do you know what their averages are like per game?
I do not know their averages per game, like all time.
Obviously, KD is higher, but has to be.
But I was surprised to see the AI stopped at 914 games, because if you look at the list of the all-time scores, like everyone's basically into the thousands. So it was pretty interesting to see the AI is under that. And, KD's going to get into the thousands. I mean, he's obviously not anywhere close to the end of his career. So that was pretty interesting. But like I said, KD is now at 24,388. The current leader is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at 38,387. So he's definitely got a way to go. I mean, he has another 14,000 points he needs to score. Literally, to the dime, 14,000 to take over first place. I don't know if that'll ever happen. But another interesting fact about it is LeBron is at 3 on that list.
Number 3, wow.
Yeah, 35,588.
Oh,
so
wow.
Will LeBron be able to score another 3,000 points?
Yes.
You think so? 3,000?
How long has LeBron been playing?
I'll look that up right now because he's been in the league for a minute.
And these are just league games, right? Like it's not counting Olympic games or anything like that.
Right, nothing like that. So it says that LeBron has played 19 years.
Okay, never mind. Maybe not.
So,
but LeBron kind of seems like that's crazy that he's been in the league that long. But LeBron's the kind of person that I could see. He's that close. I could just see him sticking around just.
You can't give up now. I mean, you're so close. I know he's stated that he wants to play in the league when his son gets in the league. So he could potentially either play with his son or against his son. And I think his son, Bronny, this is known, he goes by Bronny. I think he's in high school. Like he'll be in the league probably in the next 4 years. Does LeBron have another 4? Ooh, I don't know. I would say a hot take here, but I don't want to hear the horns again. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next thing for us. We have Klay Thompson.
Before that's a good segue. I was going to just talk about another record. I don't guess you were aware, but Steph Curry. Well, this may be old news now that he. I feel like an idiot now. You probably already know this, and it's just old news. But he passed up. Oh gosh, I feel like an idiot because I don't even know. He passed up some sort of record for 3 pointers.
Did he pass it?
For Ray Allen, yeah.
He already passed it?
Yeah.
No, he did not.
Yeah.
Actually have it in. Did he really?
Yeah.
Because I'm over here, I've got in our notes that Steph Curry is 49 3-pointers away from tying Ray Allen.
I'm looking at a Yahoo article. I don't know if it's accurate. It was written November 12th.
That's it. I'm Googling right now, NBA most 3-pointers. It still says Ray Allen.
Okay, maybe Yahoo's
unless they haven't
got
updated
it all wrong.
Yeah, I think.
Well, because November 12th was a while ago, so surely NBA would have had it updated by now.
I would think so. It's still showing me Ray Allen.
Okay.
Anyways, you tried to
Well,
cut me
okay.
off to tell me a stat that wasn't even real?
That's not even they're stating that he has the most combined regular and postseason threes, so maybe Ray Allen just has
Okay.
more. Maybe that's the difference. I'm sorry.
Maybe
I'm
so.
so sorry.
Wow.
But speaking of the Warriors,
The Warriors are dominating right now. They are 16-2, and I think if I'm correct, I think they've won. They're okay. So they're currently playing against the Trailblazers as we record this. They're winning 58-44. So if they're able to hold that lead, they will be going up to 17-2. But until then, they're 16-2. They just got pretty good news that Klay Thompson has already attended his first full practice since his ACL and Achilles tear. So I just wanted to ask you. Obviously, we kind of spoke about this earlier. You know who Klay Thompson is, because you have watched that finals between the Warriors and the Celtics.
That's
No,
right. With LeBron on
Warriors
the Celtics
and the
yeah.
Cavs,
Yes,
and
the 2015 NBA championship.
and so you got a little bit of taste of Klay Thompson there. So do you think they will be able to stay dominant with him coming back into the lineup? Because they're 16-2 right now with the roster that they're playing with. They've got the chemistry. Obviously, I'm not saying that they don't have chemistry with Klay Thompson. Like, clearly they do, but not this season. You know, he may not come back as hot as he was. It may take him a month or two. It may take him the season to get back into his groove. But do you think that they'll stay as dominant with him coming back in?
I'm going to throw that question back at you because really, I don't know. Like, and this is kind of a part of this me becoming a sports fan and like track. Like, I don't know. Like, my initial thought is that yes, but yeah. In your experience, have you seen other people who have taken a few years off come back and then their chemistry is altered a little bit? I don't know. Like, what is your experience with that?
I mean, I definitely don't have any like just specific examples of it, but I do know just within sports in general, if you have a team that's hot and they're doing well,
Right.
when you throw anybody that hasn't played with that core roster in an actual game, practice is practice. Shout out to AI, um, but putting Klay Thompson back in the lineup could stir things up. They may lose a few games. Who knows? If I would be honestly surprised if he came back in and just immediately started tearing it up. I'm not saying he's going to cost them games, but I would be surprised to see him come in and drop 20-point games, 30-point games from the rip. They'll probably start him off playing, a time limit. They'll limit him each game probably for the first few games. I'm assuming maybe the first week or so. But other than that, I mean, it's a good thing to have Klay Thompson back. So I think they're going to continue to dominate, and it's honestly scary to see that they are 16-2 without him. To see that, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I'm not super familiar with their roster right now. I know obviously Steph, and then they've got Green. I don't remember his first name. Draymond Green. Okay.
Yep.
I don't know anybody else on the roster. I'm not saying that their team isn't like good. It's not just the two of them. Like, I get that, but like, has there been somebody else who's kind of stepped into Klay Thompson's shoes in his absence?
So they've got a shooting guard.
Been like a team effort?
Oh, well, okay. Well, I can't say that it hasn't just been a team effort. It definitely has been. But they do have a guy, Jordan Poole, who's a shooting guard who's been pretty hot lately. And they've also got Andrew Wiggins, who's a small forward. So, those two guys.
Are either of them I'm not even saying like necessarily to Klay Thompson's level, but are either of them coming close to like his stats?
No.
If that makes any sense. Okay.
No.
Because I feel like if there was like somebody who was kind of filling that role, then I could see that causing some chemistry issu't
Jordan Poole, their shooting guard, I'm just basing this off of their game against the Trailblazers right now. Obviously, this isn't going to tell much, but out of the 3-pointers shot, Steph's taken 7. The second guy is Jordan Poole, their shooting guard, who's taken 3. So I don't know if anyone has stepped in and come close to a Klay Thompson level. I wouldn't necessarily say that, but they've definitely tried to put someone in that position where he would be playing and tried to imitate that 3-point game that Klay brings.
Okay.
So I think when you put Klay, because Klay's also an incredible defender, so that's that's another thing that Klay will bring to the table. So I'm excited to see him come back. It's always good when you have big name guys like him back and playing in the NBA. It only just brings so much better just media and just so much more fun to the game. So I'm excited to see him come back. Next up, I want to end this segment with just talking about the Kia MVP ladder. So obviously each week the NBA updates this MVP ladder of who they think is leading in the MVP race so far. And I know we're just talking about the Warriors, but number one, Steph Curry. He's averaging 28 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. And like we mentioned earlier, he's 49 3-pointers away from tying Ray Allen for number one all-time threes list. That's huge. Like, we're watching history, man. Like, to see someone playing in our game right now while we're alive watching is going to break an NBA all-time record. Like, that is definitely a big moment to be, a fan of the game to see.
For sure.
So, I mean, in this past week, have you seen Steph play at all? Any of his highlights or anything?
Yeah, I've watched a few of the highlights.
Okay. I didn't know if you'd seen how good he's been doing lately.
Well, my only experience with the NBA prior to this, as mentioned in the last episode, was the championship, game or series. So that's my only experience with Steph, is him on his A game. So it hasn't stricken me as anything extraordinary. I mean, obviously he's extraordinary, but
but compared to when you watched him before, it's basically the same guy, if not better.
It's just Steph being Steph,
Right.
To talk about this MVP ladder, what is it just based on stats, like shots or points, rebounds?
See, that's the thing. The MVP, there's so many things that go into it that I don't even think we can really even say, because, obviously Steph's got that. I mean, I don't know, but I'm assuming he has the highest average of points per game currently. But you'll see on this list, some of these guys are leading in rebounds, some of these guys are leading in assists per game, like averages. But I think there's a little bit of everything that goes into it. How well you're doing, how well your team's doing. Like Steph obviously has been the leader for the Warriors, and they're, 16-2 right now. So if your team is 16-2, literally the best team in the NBA, and you're also hitting these huge numbers and averages, like, you're going to be up there no matter what. And so I think there's a little bit of everything that kind of goes into this. So number one is Steph. Number two is Kevin Durant, our hometown hero for the Nets. JK, he's not a hometown hero, but he is, for the Nets. He's averaging 28 points a game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. We'll get into more about Kevin Durant here in a second, because I want to hear your take on Kevin Durant. Next, we have Nicola Yokic. He is averaging 26 points a game, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. He's actually the reigning MVP, so he's kind of defending his MVP title this year. Next up, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo, 27 points a game, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. And then finally, we have Chris Paul at 5 with 14 points a game, which is the lowest points per game out of all those guys. 3 rebounds, again, lowest of all 5, but 10 assists. And that's, I think, where he's coming in with his MVP run. Clearly, the Suns are doing really well. So he's made it into the top 5. So,
all right.
Let's go ahead and jump into the Nets update. And there you go. There's the little horns for it.
Nope.
So yeah, we have been Nets fans for 1 week, Tim, and this whole week, Nets have gone 3-0. So you should be ecstatic, right? How do you feel? The Nets are 3-0 this past week.
I mean, I'm certainly happy Like, to be a Nets fan, to call myself a Nets fan, they're not
sound
letting
like
me down. Golly, give me a break. Like I said, though, the first game that I got to watch with them was Monday nights against the Cavs. It wasn't that exciting of a game. I did catch, this is one thing too interesting about being a sports fan, and maybe it's more specific to the NBA than it is like, say, the NFL or something. But like, not being able to watch every game can be kind of exhausting and frustrating.
Yeah.
Because I very much like want to be able to see things. Like, it's one thing to kind of watch my ESPN app or whatever, and as the points are kind of racking up and trying to root for my team then, but it's not the same,
For sure.
So there's been a game or two where that's kind of how I had to watch, but I did catch part of the game with the Celtics.
Okay.
The Celtics.
Right.
And I did feel like the energy level was a lot higher there. At least in I think I caught the second quarter, maybe some of the first quarter. I know I didn't catch any of the second half. Which I know the Celtics were a bit more of a threat than the Cavs. Maybe not too much, but there was a lot going into it. I know they were playing in Boston and everything. So I did see like a higher energy level, which was, and again, just kind of going back to this concept of like conserving energy for when you need it. It's just going to take some getting used to. All in all, I'm certainly I'm obviously not bummed that we're not getting creamed or anything like that.
Right.
But just to kind of go off, like to build off of like where I'm at, I don't know if it might also be that part of me kind of wants to root for the underdog, and I can't say that we really are underdogs, and so
right. No, you're right.
I mean, I'm certainly like, I just don't know where I stand right now, like,
right. It's hard to just roll, or as you like to say, spin a wheel, which is what we did, and just have that team. Like, I get it.
Well, yeah, it's just so odd because I don't have like, outside of this wheel, I don't have a reason to necessarily like through thick and thin be a Nets fan,
Right.
So
So it's just hard to kind of just commit when you really don't even know much about them. So, and you haven't seen them play either. So you're right. They aren't the underdog. We're very much the overdog this year. And so let's break down the last three games. First, we played the Magic. Nail biter finish to that one. We beat them 115 to 113. Literally came down to the final minute. KD was out for this game. This was our first game as a fan together, so we kind of texted back and forth about this one leading up to it. I remember you texted me or saying KD's out, and I was like, well, Harden's going to have to step up this game. And that's the thing about the Nets. And it might be the reason why it's hard to root for them is because even when we have our best player out, our second best player would be another team's number one best player,
Sure.
And so KD took the night off. Harden just had to put in a little bit more effort, put up 36 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, and we were still able to walk away with a victory. Magic team, young team, not doing well record-wise, but they have a lot of young talent in Cole Anthony, Mo Bamba, players like that that really obviously competed with the Nets and made it kind of a difficult game. I know you weren't able to watch that game, but any takeaways, any feedback, like being that was our first game. Any thoughts on like how you kept up with it, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean that because it was our first game and just coming off the high, because that was later in the day of our first recording, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was the next day. But
I think it was the next day.
But either way, I was super excited, super amped, and so I had the app pulled up and was just kind of watching the whole game and trying to get my wife rooting for the Nets too, which was fun. She still can't remember half their names, but
it's hard, man. It is hard, like especially if you don't have any like previous NBA knowledge to just have these names thrown at you. It's like I'm going to forget immediately. So
right, but yeah, it was fun just to kind of even though I couldn't see it, watching the app, and like I said, I don't see that holding up long term. I definitely need to have a game in front of me. So
All right. Next up, we have the Nets beat the Cavs 117 to 112. Again, you were able to actually watch this one. So you have probably more takeaways and feedback on this game. I will kind of go over the box score real quick. KD came back and played this one. He scored 27. He had 9 assists, 6 rebounds. Harden even had 14 assists. I would give a few notables here to Patty Mills, who had 17. Again, just killing it with the 3-pointers this year. And then LaMarcus Aldridge had 21. But like we said at the beginning of the podcast, the Cavs were on fire. They were competing. They were winning most of the game. Darius Garland, Jared Allen. What were your takeaways from this one? Because you watched this one.
Right. Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it was like watching it, just feeling like the Nets played so lazily pretty much the first 3 quarters, and we were down. So it was very frustrating to say, well, I'm going to root for this team. And knowing that we have like some of the better players in the league, and like to lose to this younger team who prior to watching the game, I didn't know any of those players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think says a lot that, okay, we're kind of stacked. This should be an easy game. And maybe in some ways it was because we were just lackadaisically playing, and because we knew that we could,
just
wipe
turn
the
on
floor
the
with them in
Jets at
that
the end of
fourth
the
quarter.
game.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we did. And so, we took home the W. But like, I guess it's just like, I was found myself like, I can't wait to see till Garland gets the ball. Like that's what I was excited for, just because I know that it's going to be far more entertaining to see him. The one thing that really drove me nuts, and to kind of go back to my basketball career, as it were, in high school, was not an offensive presence at all. I was tall. I was a big boy, and that was what got me on the team.
And
I was a rebounder. I was defense and rebounds, and I literally could not put a number on how many times I got screamed at for like not crashing the boards. Like, and that was not just for me; it was my team. I don't remember seeing the Nets ever doing that. If a shot went up, they're just standing there, and they weren't even like running back to get ready for defense. They would just stand there, and wherever they were, and it just drove me up the wall to watch that. And to their, or not to their credit, to the Cavs' credit, by the halftime, I had to look it up. The Cavs had 30-ish rebounds to the Nets. I think they had 12. That's both offense and defense. And I was just like, this is embarrassing. Yeah. They literally had more than double what we had. And I was just, that's just such an easy thing to fix, Like,
you can't always make your Tim Swaney.
You can't always make your shots fall, but you can you can crash the boards. That's what was driving me nuts.
Get big men down low, get these boards. Wow. Just to think, like, obviously you have experience playing basketball, but to be so far removed from that time of your life and to not really have kept up with, NBA at all, to be able to watch a game and have that knowledge of I guess anyone could sit down and be like, we're shooting it and the other team's getting the ball. Why aren't we getting it? But you know what you're watching. You're literally looking at it and you're like, we're not crashing. We're not
all I could do is like put myself out there. Like, that's when I'm watching the games. I'm just man, I felt and I just can hear my coach
yell at you.
Exactly.
That is hilarious. Well, I'm glad you're able to watch that. I'm glad you're able to give us that perspective of that game. I wish I could have watched it too, but I was able to watch a little bit of the Nets Celtics game, probably just as much as you, if not less, though. But the Nets ended up coming out, beating the Celtics 123 to 104. Again, KD, James Harden both played this game. Easy dub for the Nets. We were up by close to 30 at one point in the game. But again, I want to give a shout out to Patty Mills. He is clearly our best 3-point shooter right now. I think he hit 7 in that game, which is just insane for, one game. But he had 23 points. 21 of those were 3-pointers. So that's pretty insane. KD had 21 points. Harden had 20. And that's the thing, man. When you have KD and Harden both putting up 20 points a game. Like, it's hard to lose those games,
Right.
And here we are up by 20. But one thing that I took away was just how impressed I was with Patty Mills. I mean, literally, give him the ball on offense, let him shoot. He's going to hit those threes. Do you have any takeaways from the Celtics game?
Not other than just to say it was nice to, being the second game that I could watch, to see that the Nets can play with energy, step it up, which does give me hope for, the future. Because again, I'm not saying that I'm going to walk away from the Nets right now. My plan is to be a Nets fan at least till the end of the season, but who knows? We might come to a point where I've just got to walk away. I don't know.
I mean, we're 1 week in.
We're 1 week.
And you're already contemplating.
I don't feel like I'm there by any stretch. I'm weighing out my options right now. I'm just trying to get a feel for what's going on. I'm just saying that's not off the table, but I don't feel anywhere close to saying that I'm turning my back to the Nets. So don't hear me say that. I definitely want to give them as much loyalty as I can right now.
Would you buy Nets merch right now?
100%.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, there you go. I feel like that's a good test. Like, are you willing to buy a hat or a shirt? Yeah. Okay. He's still a good fan.
Yeah, for sure. I like
the day you start to think, I don't know. That's the day we start to look at other teams.
I would be feeling differently if I was watching, let's say, the game against the Cavs, and then we're not crashing the boards or whatever, and then we lose because that's just a stupid loss, But
right.
like we're playing smart. It's frustrating. We're playing lazy, but like that's smart ball, I guess, long term, right? So I'm not. It's just going to take getting used to. That's all I can say. I feel like I sound like I'm hesitant here, or that I'm teetering. I don't want to sound like I'm just not ready to commit. It's just a new ball game for me, So
exactly. Are there any other teams that you have seen a highlight of or seen some headlines of that you were like, I've enjoyed watching these guys, other than the Cavs, because I know you said you enjoyed watching them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I've been keeping up with the Hawks too. That was not my intent, but I know that you're a Hawks fan, and being from Atlanta, I know I'm going to hear about them. So I've kept up with them almost as frequently as the Nets. I haven't been able to watch any of their games. I did try to watch one game, but I couldn't get it to work out. Other than that, I mean, I'm trying to track with the Suns because it's just interesting to see what they're doing.
Right.
And then also, there was a highlight reel that I just kind of got carried. I kind of fell down a rabbit trail or rabbit hole, whatever the phrase is, with Giannis, and he's with the Bucks, right?
Right.
And if I had the opportunity, I was going to watch that game tonight just to kind of see him play, because I really enjoy watching him. Like, he seems to really have a lot of drive. So,
wow. This is awesome to hear, man. I'm glad to hear that a week in, you've already started to, notice the pace of play from certain teams, find some guys that you enjoy watching. That's really awesome. And I'm excited, again, to just hear you at the end of the season, see what you can take away from it, the teams you like, the players you like. That's going to be exciting. So at the end of this week, Nets finished up 14-5. They're leading the East. Again, next game is against the Suns. They are 15-3. That's probably going to be one of the better games in the season so far. So we'll have to keep our eye out for that one, and we will give you guys an update on that one next week.
Quick. I'm going to throw it on you. How are we going to do? What are your thoughts? Do you think we can do it?
We're going to catch it up. We're going to catch it up because KD isn't going to let us lose.
Yeah.
The one I'm concerned about is Chris Paul, because Chris Paul is a vet. Not saying that KD isn't, but Chris Paul's more of a vet. And when you get those veteran players on the court, no matter who they're playing against,
and by that you just mean he's been in the league a little bit longer.
Yeah. Okay. And there's just something about vets, man. They have that IQ that gives them the edge. They've been here, they've done this, and I don't know. But see, the thing is, if KD plays, KD is a warrior. Not literally. He used to be.
He was.
But he's a competitor. He's not going to give up easily. So I say it's going to be a close game, but KD gives us the edge on this one. I wouldn't be surprised if KD put up 40. That's going to be my hot take of the week. KD puts up 40 against the Suns.
Where's the?
What about you? What do you think we'll do against the Suns before we wrap up this podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going all in. I'm sliding all my chips into the Nets for sure.
All right.
I think based on the game that I did watch the portion of the game with the Celtics, like I've seen that the Nets do have an on switch, and I think they're going to turn it on. They've got to. I mean,
one concern I do have is that we haven't played after Thanksgiving. The Suns have, so we may still have that full belly. The Suns have already worked it off. So
well, hopefully they've done some sprinting here or something just to kind of burn the calories.
Right.
Well, before we sign off today, tell me with the NBA one thing that you're thankful for.
One thing I'm thankful for with the NBA.
Yeah, we're gonna be a little cheesy here.
Oh man. Wow.
Or one thing you're thankful for with the podcast. I know we're only 2 episodes in here, but
I'm thankful that I have a friend like you, Tim, that will talk NBA with me. Because I haven't had – I've got friends that follow the NBA, but I don't have a friend that I can follow and like text them, about certain things. And I feel like that's what I have loved so much this last week is the fact that we've been able to just talk basketball and just send big headlines and stuff. And like the fact that we started this podcast right in the nick of time to see this LeBron Isaiah Stewart thing was just so fun.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that. Beat that one.
I love that. Oof. I mean, I was just going to say the same thing, really. I'm thankful for the NBA giving – I think it's the perfect sport to really kick this podcast off because I have a love for basketball. So it's easy to kind of jump into this. But I'm thankful for you just being willing to take the time and have, walk me through this because I feel like if it was with anybody else or doing it any different way, without this podcast, maybe it would be very overwhelming. And I don't know that a lot of people would have the patience to kind of like walk me through the major storylines, the major players, that kind of thing. So I'm excited. But also, of course, we're thankful for you guys, the listeners. I was about to say the fans. We have
come on, y'all.
5 listeners right now, but
hey, that's okay. We appreciate every listen.
Absolutely. Although I think you and I are 2 of those.
Right.
But
Shout out to Elijah.
We are thankful for sure. Yeah. Thanks, Elijah. Dude, that man, this is shout out to my other podcast too, The Ramble.
Right.
Elijah, that man is loyal, is a loyal listener to me. So I appreciate you. Listen,
here we're shouting him out now. Elijah, if you're listening to this, send Tim a text saying, go Nets. Let's see if you're listening.
Oh, he's listening. I promise you he will be. But I don't want to just shout out Elijah. I mean, love that guy. But if this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, let us know and we'll give you a shout out too. This will be a little window each episode where we're just going to give you a little bit of love because we love you guys. Thank you so much for the support that you're giving us. Specifically, once again, me, not to take away from Jacob, but I just feel, I still feel so, lost in this journey here. So definitely give me some support.
Thank y'all for supporting Tim. And like you said, if you want a shout out, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Not a Sports Guy Podcast. Email us with any questions or heck, if you don't want to follow us on Instagram, just email us. Let us know you're listening at notasportsguypodcast@gmail.com. Give us a comment on our next post saying go Nets. We'll make sure to give you a shout out on the next podcast. So thank y'all so much for listening.
We out.
See ya.